Welcome, everyone. Welcome to the regular meeting of council, Tuesday, July 22nd, 2025. We would like to begin this meeting by acknowledging that we are gathered on the traditional, ancestral, and unceded territories of the Nlaka'pamux and Syilx people. Late items. I have a late item. I'd like to make an amendment to cancel the in-camera meeting tonight. Seconder, Paul Petrosi and Councillor Egan, and because it's in camera, we're not allowed to discuss it. So all those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Public input. CO, public input.
Thank you, Your Worship. There is no one registered for public input at this point.
Thank you very much. Adoption of minutes, regular council meeting minutes, July 8th, 2025. Recommendation that the minutes of the regular council meeting held on July 8th, 2025 be adopted. Councillor Petrosi. Councillor Charney, any errors or omissions? Councillor Etchart.
I was just noticing in the minutes that I actually missed the Immigrant Services Barbecue, but I was at that Canada Day events at the park. So I got the text late and I forgot. So whoops.
Okay. You have that, CO?
We can amend the minutes and you can adopt them as amended with that change.
So the minutes as amended. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. General matters. Delegations and recognitions. 5.1 drought and water availability to be presented by Mr. Patrick Farmer. Management Committee. Patrick, where'd you go? There he is. So anybody that's listening, we call Patrick the water guy.
I'll take water guy over water boy.
That's why I didn't say that. See, I said water guy.
Yeah. Good evening, everyone. I'm Patrick Farmer from the Ministry of Water, Lands, and Resource Stewardship, and I'm the section head. So I lead the water program for the region now. But for many years, I led the merit team here out of the merit office. I still sort of do that double duty, but yeah. And I'll let Terry introduce himself.
Yeah, good evening, everybody. My name is Terry Robert. I'm the Director of Sustainable Communities for the Fraser Basin Council. And so I'm responsible for the Fraser Basin Council's operations kind of from Hope, BC on, a small part of the province, 2/3 of it. And I'm here and happy to be here. I work with Patrick to help support the facilitation of the committee that he's going to be giving you a bit of an update on today. So thank you.
So I think I've done, well, Your Worship, you would probably remember how many times I've come to this group more than I would, but
I think it's your fourth time.
Yeah, pretty regular fixture that we come to you during the summer to talk a bit about water scarcity and drought and give you sort of an update. And today we're going to sort of reintroduce the NAHIP Management Committee, which you hopefully are familiar with a bit. We're going to talk about sort of what the current conditions are in the Nicola Valley from a water standpoint. And then, of course, we're going to have a bit of an ask from the City of Merritt. So first, the committee. Who we are, where we are, what we are. So we're the NAHIP Management Committee. That's a local drought response group that is part of the Nicola Watershed Governance Partnership. And that's that G2G group between 5 Nicola communities and the BC government. We look after or are responsible for the Nicola Valley. That's kind of our area of scope. What we do is we're drought response. And so drought response is all about sort of responding to how the climate is doing, how the watershed is doing. Our group works closely with the regional and provincial levels. What separates us a little bit, besides obviously our Indigenous partners being a big part of our group, is we tend to look a little bit longer term. Drought response can be very focused in on what's happening, in July, August, and September. We tend to look a little bit longer out than that. So a lot of our projects are sort of more preventative and longer response than short response. And then how do we do this work? Well, we carry out guided by Indigenous principles as well as Western science. So we utilize the grandmother's teachings from the Nlaka'pamux communities, and then we use the 4 food chiefs from the silk communities. Next slide. So what's 2025 been looking like so far? And I think if I asked you, you probably would recognize it the same as myself, many of the main water users out there like Highland Valley Copper, and of course our irrigation community, which utilizes a lot of water in our valley. Drought sort of snuck up on us. If you were watching the snowpacks, they weren't terrible early on, and then they weren't, parts of the watershed never got a lot better, and some got better. We had lots of water in the Guichon watershed. We had lots of snow in the Spias, even had a decent snowpack in the Coldwater. The one spot that was sort of the anomaly for us was that upper Nicola portion, everything that feeds into Nicola Lake. So we had very little snow up in that part of the country. And then what happened was it left us a lot earlier than we would have liked it to. So the onset of freshet started in March instead of, late April, May. And that just kind of kicked everything off a little earlier than we would have liked. So that's really the story of this season so far, is that early melt of snow. Our streams are really low. They're very low for this time of year. Many of them setting records for how low they are. Quishannon Creek has been the lowest it's ever been recorded for this time of year, more or less since freshet ended. And so things are just really low for this time of year. Are they low for how low they can get? No, but they are low for this time of year. And I've got some slides to kind of illustrate that better than just the words. Of course, the forecast is, we all live here in the Nicola Valley. I picked this place to call home because I love the sun and I love the heat and I love what that looks like in terms of 30+ degree days every day in the summer. So that's what you get in the Nicola Valley. To expect that you're going to get a lot of rain in July and August is a bit of a gamble, I would say, that I wouldn't put money on that one. We've had a decent, kind of precipitation sort of after freshet. It's been average, which is great because we've had some bad years where we didn't meet average, but average isn't going to be enough to sort of pull us out of this kind of path that we're on right now. Having said that, if we continue to get rain, then that will be a good thing and that will lessen the impacts of drought for sure. Next slide. So what you're seeing there is sort of the hydrograph or the tail end of it for the Coldwater. I like that one because that's a natural stream. There's no big dams on it that are controlled by humans. And so as you can see, going right back into May, we've always sort of been in that kind of red. And if you're wondering, red's never a good thing. And so we've, just sort of bubbled along there. That was our freshet, was May 26th. That was kind of the second peak that we had, which never really got out of the yellow. The green, there is a gray line kind of splitting that green part. That would be average. So on a day like today, we would expect about 4 to 5 CMS or 4 to 5,000 liters a second flowing in the Coldwater. And this year we've got about 1,000. That's where we're at. Next slide, please. So that's the surface story. Here's the groundwater story. This graph is, it's your aquifer. This is where you get all your water from. Going back into last year, it never really left sort of setting records for minimum flow or minimum levels. So the black line is this year. That's where you're at. And this is the aquifer that's immediately under our feet. It's recharged from the river. It's recharged from precipitation. Freshet came early, so you can see sort of the peak there, the top part of that black line. Happened in, May there, or late April. And that normally is closer to June. So it sort of followed what everything else did. Everything else in the Nicola watershed was about 4 to 6 weeks early. And the peak for the aquifer was about the same. So we got back up into the green mainly because it was early, not because we had lots of water. And here we are back to sort of, pretty low. Now, I recognize that there's a weird sort of kind of drop there that we cruised through. I think that's just, you know, the way that aquifer works and just some of the data that we've collected over years. This station has been around for over 30 years, so it's a pretty long-term station. If you go to the next slide, this is a new observation well. This is in the second aquifer down, again below our feet, and the black line is this year. This one hasn't been around nearly as long. It goes back to 2019, so it's the last 6 years. You'll see that it's a lot more jagged. If you look at sort of the scale, you'll see that we're only talking about you know, 0.6 to 0.8 of a meter. So it's just a lot finer. That's why that bumpiness is there. But again, what it tells you is that normally this time of year, the water should be going up, and instead this year the water's going down. So that's kind of where we're at. So what gets impacted when we have drought? We have low stream flows. We've talked about that. We get high water temperatures. Water temperatures haven't been terrible this year, mainly because it hasn't been that hot for long stretches of time. But we do get high water use when the heat does come out. Everybody's using it. They're watering their fields, they're watering their lawns, they're doing the things that people do with water kind of everywhere in the interior of BC. So we get a lot of water use, especially when it's hotter and drier out. We start to run into food scarcity issues, and we within HAYUP Group tend to refer to this as all the beings that count on water within the watershed, not just us human beings. But the four-legged ones, the finned ones, the winged ones, everyone needs water to survive. And when there's less water, that means there's less water for everyone. And then, of course, the Nicola Valley is known for people seeking out water bodies. You know, people start building the lovely weirs in the cold water is notorious for that. They make little pools to dam up the water to make it a little deeper and a little bit more comfortable. And then those, are passed along on to mostly the finned ones in terms of how to navigate those rock weirs when the water level drops. So the impact of drought is just sort of everywhere because everything needs water to survive. Things don't grow in the Nicola Valley. It's hard to grow grass. It's hard to grow a crop. It's hard to grow vegetables without water. And every being needs water. So the impacts are far reaching beyond just our own obvious impacts. So what's the ask to the City of Merritt? The City of Merritt has done a great job of kind of tightening their belt and trying to move forward on water conservation. There's been some things that we've been looking for from the province and then from the HAYUP Group for many years, and you guys are starting to see some of those come into reality. Of course, I'm referring to water metering, because water metering is a great way to enact water conservation. It's really hard to conserve something if you don't know how much water you use yourself. You just use it, and there is no questions about how much or why. And then there's no cost to it. Whether I use twice as much or twice as little, it doesn't really matter. So water metering will help that. So the biggest thing that the City of Merritt can do is water conservation. Rick Green, I see him here tonight. Rick's been a champion for you guys, leading water conservation, pushing water metering, and helping with just kind of keeping all that stuff, that momentum moving forward. So I want to throw a quick shout out to him. But we just have to keep doing more and never kind of let up off of that, especially in years like this year where we're in the middle of July. And if we don't, see rain kind of show up, which again, we've already talked about why we love the Nicola Valley. We don't get rain in July. We don't get rain in August. We get little storm cells that kind of boost things up. And we've had one even just yesterday that did that. But for the most part, rain's not coming. So in the short term, it's really about water conservation. It's about education, making sure people understand how much water they use and how they can use less, and making sure that all the beings have access to Ku, Suuk, or water, not just us humans. In the longer term, it's metering, it's investing in water supply and storage. So the city of Merritt mainly gets their water from the aquifer that's tied to surface sources, both the Nicola and the Coldwater River. But you also have a well that goes a little bit deeper, so it's looking at other options. It's also looking at storing water to ensure that you have more for the future. And there's some thoughts and ideas around that. And then it's really about planning and development. And I would just leave you with thinking when we're building out our community here in Merritt, it's really about thinking water first. We don't have a California problem. We're not the same as California. But we do have a water timing problem in that we get our water through the spring and then we, with the way the climate has been the last little bit, the summers are just tougher to get through. And so it's really a timing issue. And so how do you deal with that? Well, one of those things is conserving water. Another one is storing water for when you need it later. But I would, again, encourage the city in the long term to continue to plan development and growth here with a water first kind of mindset. And I've heard Mike say that in the past, so I'm encouraged that that's already being somewhat deployed, but we got to keep at it. And we just need to all think differently about water, how much we have, how much we use, and about all the things besides us that need it. So with that, Kutz Chem, Wade Limlet, and thank you.
Thank you. I'll give you the golf clap, Patrick.
I am wearing a
So,
golfing shirt. So.
Patrick, just a couple quick questions from
Yes.
myself. So we met with the minister last week and we ran through what we're doing as far as this goes. I'm glad Terry's here because we have some questions that'll probably be Fraser Basin resolved. One of the things that we brought up was the fact that we know that the farmers have a different water license than we do. But that's never really let known in the community. We constantly get how come the farmers can and we can't? We also know that the school board is on a different watering system because they water every single night. We understand the fact that those fields need to be protected. We do the same thing and we have pretty much gone to level 3 as normal here. And that's kind of the way we've done it. We also are asking people to zero-scape as much as possible. We're also asking the plant places in town to stop selling water, dependent plants.
The cedars.
Yeah, cedars and rest of it. And a lot of them are complying. Myself, I've gone to drought resistant and natural plants in my backyard. No big deal. So I guess what I would say is as you move forward with this group and everything, I think the public needs to know a little bit more information as far as how the farmers and the school boards are treated as the city, because it's the constant question I always get asked is how come they can and we can't? So I understand this is about education, but I would like to see that level of education go a little bit deeper and have a little blurb on that in your thing about why farmers can, because it's a cash crop. Let's be honest here. They've got to feed animals and they grow our food. But also too, if you do look at their roundabouts these days, they're more misters now. Before they were just water all over the place, but now they've gone on misting and stuff like that. And then you get people saying, well, how come they're watering when it's raining? So stuff like that. So just a little bit more educational. We could really use that when we have to start talking to people about our water usage. But that's just me, Council Petrosi.
Patrick, thanks for your presentation. My property was completely flooded after the flood. And instead of planting grass and more shrubs and it's all gravel, or most of it's gravel now. So I just think a lot more people can actually do that. And it's great not having to worry about having the water. And I found this year, for some reason, I don't know if you know anything, but the fruit trees have really taken off this year compared to the last 2-3 years. What the difference in the weather was this year, I don't know, but
Well, Monday, it must have rained 10 feet.
yeah.
I mean, I'll be interesting to see what your monitor says
The
about
amount
Monday
of
the 21st.
plums and peaches this
That's
year
cool.
compared to the last 3 years has just been unbelievable.
Yeah.
So,
I
but,
suspect that's just because the season started so early.
right.
And they weren't shocked with any kind of big climatic change events where like they had the year before that, but I'm not much of a.
Can you speak to zero-scaping? You're
Yeah,
trying to.
yeah, I would like
encourage
to. Because So I'm somewhat relieved to hear about gravel, but then I'm a bit terrified. Like, if you look at what folks are doing in California, and they are, like I said, we're not them, but we could be many moons, many years later. But they went through the xeriscaping and now they've backed away from that. Now they're paying you to plant trees, shade shrubs. If you drive my yard, which is 2440 Aberdeen Road, you'll see that I have lots of trees. And I have lots of trees, which means I don't actually have to water that often because they're mostly yellow pine or ponderosa pine, which don't need any water. And then they produce shade for everything that grows underneath it. And so in California, they've moved away from the complete xeriscaping and they've moved into the drought tolerant shrubs, trees, natural vegetation, because gravel is great in that it doesn't need any water, but gravel does a very poor job of storing water. Like, it stores zero. And if nothing else, it just lets it evaporate off. So a big rainfall event comes. It was 29 degrees before the rain event came. The rocks are still hot. The water hits it and it's basically evaporating in the air. Whereas if you had a bunch of big trees and shrubs and stuff like that, that creates a lot of shade and just cools everything down, it stores it, it holds it. It's not gone. It's, there for a week, 2 weeks. So xeriscaping will help, but I would encourage folks to just kind of move back, look around you and see what Mother Nature is doing. You don't often see gravel or bare soil as a piece of grasslands. So, yeah.
I just wanted to add that I had, I guess, 4 lines for underground sprinkling. I'm just using 1 now. So
Yeah.
The other 3 have been blocked off now. So
Yeah, underground sprinkling is a really great way. Fighting the wind in the Nicola Valley, normally it's pretty windy here. And so watching all that water sort of blow off, whether you're doing it out of a pivot or whether you're doing it out of a impact sprinkler from your lawn, is the same, right? So yeah, it's all about water efficiency. I just want to touch on what our worship brought forward with the irrigation folks. They don't have a different water license than you. They have a different time in that they can only irrigate between April 1st and September 30th. But when you guys are going to 1 day a week watering as per your drought response plan, folks in the Nicola Valley are doing 0 days a week. Their crops are being cut and their fields are being left to dry. There's no irrigation going on at that level. When the river in the cold water hits a certain level, all irrigation in the cold water is turned off. And it has been for 8 of the last 10 years. And that usually happens right around the first week of August. I hope that this year it's later. I'm not optimistic at the current path that we're on. In the Nicola Valley, last year, we had a 5-day stop where everybody shut off. And the year before that, we had a 3-week shut off from the irrigation community where they go to 0 watering. So yeah, they do use a lot of water. They do grow food for all of us to eat. But they're doing their part and they don't have a special sort of buy from the province or anyone. They're usually the first one gets sort of the whack because they use the most.
Councilor Richard.
Yeah, thanks for the information. I know that in the 2020 OCP revision, we decided to remove shrubs from new construction and other pieces. But of course, after the flood, a lot of people were reconstructing yards and probably using more water than they normally would because of replanting and repairing. So in the last couple of years, you think that people's efforts of reduction have helped? Have you noticed?
Yeah, like I think things are moving in the right direction, Adam. We just have to keep at it. And if you're going the educational and awareness route, it's a lot of work. Like, you're trying to convince people and educate them about water use and what kinds of plants they should be planting and stuff like that. And there's always going to be some resistance there. So I hear what Mike's saying, that we have to do a better job ourselves about our education. We do educational awareness. I've talked to BC Cattlemen's about them doing their own kind of outreach because people don't understand farming. And that's really kind of alarming to hear that in a valley that is almost solely farming. Like, we have a ton of irrigation and agriculture here. And that's a really good thing. But people know very little about it. And that's the part that's alarming. So we do all need to do a better job of education around that and their water needs. But we have seen water conservation measures work in the city of Merritt, going back to your question. And we have seen a lot of people transform their lawns into not just, the classic lawn on a slope with about an inch and a half of topsoil. Like that's, we're all living on riverbed once upon a time. And so I've seen a lot of that kind of change and a lot of the water use change in a really good way. And that's good news, but we have to keep at it.
Mr. Attorney. Oh, sorry. you done?
The only other thing I was gonna say is when we do have the extreme water drought and then there's no watering of the fields, what do they do for the animals? Is that restricted? I mean, you have to be able to feed the animals.
Yeah. We don't restrict stock watering. Stock watering, it uses very little water.
Okay.
Also, most cows are out on the Crown Range they're there till the end of September or the end of October. So they're not using water on private land until around that time. And usually we're past, the big conflict is always the month of August. And then it can be September if we don't get our fall rains showing up. And some years we do, like last year. And years before that, we haven't. So it just creates more kind of tension for those 2 months.
Thanks.
Mr. Attorney.
Thank you for the presentation. It's very interesting. I got two things. I zero-scaped our rental property and I put in shrubs, et cetera, et cetera. But my biggest concern that I see is no worms. So obviously, so the birds can't go on zero-scaped land for worms. So that is a concern for me. And also the rocks do heat up the ground.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, like I said, California was big on zero-scape and then they realized they're like, wait a second, we gotta do something different. There's actually a really good YouTube video of this person who totally transformed their yard in California to the point where they had so much water, they were putting it on their neighbor's yard. No irrigation, just Mother Nature in California.
Do you have suggestions on storing water? What do you have in mind for storing water?
Yeah, so there's two main ways that we can store water. The more obvious one is in a lake, right? We store water in Nickel Lake. We store water in a number of lakes above Nickel Lake. Actually, most of our lakes are stored. Drought and water scarcity is not a new thing in the Nicola Valley. This is something that's always been here. Indigenous people built rock weirs to store water. So this is not a new thing. So storing surface water in lakes is, the more obvious option. The other one that the province has started to sort of explore, and many places in the eastern part of the world store water in the ground. So it's supercharging aquifers. We've got 3 of them underneath our feet right now. It's putting water into those aquifers and then pulling it out later.
Okay, thank you.
One of the other things that I noticed, Patrick, because my daughter works at Purity Feed, they are steering people more to a clover-based grass seed rather than grass seed. And I see one of my neighbors has done exactly that. It looks a little strange, but it seems he cuts like maybe twice a month if that. And it does have quite a nice look to it. But apparently that's much better is to use clover than grass seed. So
yeah, I planted a mixture of clover and drought tolerant grass seed, and it looks really good together. And I water a bit once a week. And again, the trees provide so much shade that it's pretty happy. But the gravel it creates a new challenge. And so, like I said, go out to the grasslands, go out into the transition from grassland into treed and look at what's growing there. And those are the things that you can plant.
Terry, any concerns from Fraser Basin that you'd like to put forward?
Yeah, I was just going to say, I agree. I think education is a big component. People do need to be more aware of the water budget in their communities and who's doing what. And there's nothing worse than how come they can and they can't. And those things do happen, right? And I think the other thing we need to think about is mimicking our natural environment when it comes to our our landscaping wherever possible to mimic the natural environment. And like Patrick said, don't go, xeriscaping is conceptually a good, but you want to be careful because of the heat domes and other risks that are coming around, to be thoughtful about shade. And, there's other impacts as well, like, soil microbes and other types of things that can be impacted. So just like anything, if you go all the way on one solution, there's going to be negatives. So it's about coming up with the solution that fits for merit in the merit environment. And that may put some pressure on your bylaw enforcement over the little while, as some people may choose to not do anything with their yard and let natural occurrence take place. And in some communities, they're considering that as an option. So these are the types of things that you may want to think about moving forward, because there is an aesthetic impact as well.
Excellent. Thank you. Anyone else? Thank you very much for the presentation, gentlemen. I appreciate it.
All right, thank you very much. One
Thank you.
last fact check. So the school district, you guys are the water purveyor. You determine how much they water their fields. They don't have anything.
We've
There's
tried,
special.
tried that trick already, and they've.
Yeah, try again, and if it doesn't work,
We will.
then give me a call.
We did mention this to the minister as well, and but we have. I live right beside the school. It goes every night.
Yeah.
Every night it goes. And now I don't mind to a certain degree, because they got one of the heads that doesn't work correctly, and it waters half my yard. So now I'm about to kill my own yard off.
You're benefiting with that water.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But so we will definitely ask them to take it easy.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Appreciate
folks.
it. Thank you very much. 8.1, housing funding direction. I have a recommendation that council direct staff to move forward with options 1 and 2 as outlined in the July 8th, 2025 report of the Director of Housing entitled Housing Fund Direction. I need a mover and a seconder on that. Councillor Egan, Councillor Baxter. And there you are.
Thank
Holly,
you.
please.
Can you hear me okay?
You bet.
All right. So I'm here to speak to you this evening about direction on how the city would like to move forward with the municipal affairs funding. So as you would have seen in the report, there's approximately $4.3 million left in the municipal affairs funding. So I've outlined 4 options on how that funding could potentially be spent. So whether the city wants to invest, build and own housing, whether they want to invest in affordable home ownership, whether they want to have an application-based nonprofit funder, whether they want to be a funder for nonprofit-based housing, affordable housing, or whether they want to have an application-based developer housing. Does anyone have any questions about that? Do you want me to go into detail? Yes.
So option 1, invest in affordable housing with partner agencies. What
Yes.
are we talking about partner agency?
We are talking about nonprofit housing agencies.
BC Housing?
No, so we're talking about like Canate, Ask Wellness, and then through that partnership, then we could apply to the BC Housing per se, Community Housing Fund, the CMHC Affordable Housing Fund, I think it's FCM Green Municipal Housing Fund. So there's a lot more housing funding available out there. The city can't apply for it on their own. They would need to have a housing partner that specializes in housing to apply for these affordable housing funds to add to the $4.3 million that we already have.
Anybody else got a question? Councillor Egan?
Yeah, I'm having a hard time with all of these because just because, I mean, I thought that we had sort of decided that we didn't want to become landlords. And yeah, and I don't know that we want to do rent to own. And the other thing is about moving the trailers up to, the other site was supposed to be up by the airport. And it says in our official plan that we're not really recommending any kind of residence to be built up there. So I don't know how we could do that.
I can clarify that for you. They're not going to be they're just getting moved there to be out of the park so that
Then they
we're,
would have to be moved again.
Yes.
That's the whole thing. And then what does
Yes.
it cost to move a trailer?
we're waiting
trailer.
on a quote for that. The idea is to not keep paying pad rent, to
I
keep it where it
understand
is.
that, and we should have those out of there as soon as we can, which I
Mhm.
think we've already put forward the notice to move, have we not?
Yes, we have.
Yes,
Yeah. So there's 21 that need to be out by September 29th.
by September 29th.
Correct.
Okay, and then the balance, there was one or two.
December 30th. I don't quote me on the 10 more by December 30th.
Yes. Yeah, so I mean, I'm having a hard time deciding on any of these options.
So the recommendation is to go with options 1 and 2. With option 1, the idea with going with a housing partner is they would manage the housing. That would not be the city to manage. It would be the housing partner to manage as the rents build back up to reinvest in housing to ensure that it's affordable. And
Well, that's the problem for me. I don't care for the way those partners manage their housing, and most people that live around them don't either. So that's why I asked who the partner agencies would be. I would prefer that we went either on our own or with a private group. I don't agree with some of the partnering of those groups. And I think we would end up with a bit of a problem if we went in that direction, so I'm not comfortable with that as well. I mean,
agree.
one of the options that we have not talked about is we're meeting with Paul tomorrow. We're talking about modular houses.
so that would come after we decide what we're going to do. If we're going to own. So what we need to decide today is if we're going to build and own, or if we're going to move forward with funding other projects. If we're going to build and own and have, we'll say, modular housing, then that's something we need to look at. If we do go with partnerships, that discussion as to who would partner would happen at another meeting. That's not for tonight. We just really need, the housing department needs to know how council wants to move forward.
Because you need a report to the province for how you're gonna spend the money.
Yeah.
So we don't lose it.
Yes.
So I would suggest we talk about it here, but a firm decision isn't going to be met tonight. I can tell you that right now.
Okay.
There's just too much on the go here that we don't want to make the wrong decision. Now, we will put a time limit to get this done for you, like 7-8 days, that council really look at this, but everybody else has questions. So I don't want to table this because I think there's a lot of options here. We're meeting with Paul tomorrow and we need to have some other conversations. We've been discussing these trailers to death. So let's make a move and get that done rather than continually talking about them. I mean, if we're going to have to store them for 10 years, why don't we just let the community buy them at 150 and be done with it and let them go and, you know, sell them to people in the community that could use them. Like again, this is the conversations we need to have. We can't make a decision tonight on these. There's too much money. There's too much option. And I understand you've got to get something, but we need a little bit more time on this, as simply as that.
And I just want to add too, is that I would really suggest not going into owning and renting. Because look at the amount of money that's been spent on repairs and maintenance, labor, parts. It's almost $250,000.
It's
It-
two modulars right there. The cost of two
Yeah.
modulars.
Yeah,
So hold on, who's next year? Councillor Baxter.
I've read over all of these multiple times. And it's a hard decision to make, but we're gonna have to make some kind of decision. And the only ones I can see for the future of Merritt is a blend of options 1 and 2. Where we own it on a land that doesn't belong to Merritt, we purchase the land, we put our trailers on there. We rent to own them, we sell them off, but it's not City of Merritt land, we bought it for that specific reason. So it's kind of a blend of option 1 and 2 where we partner up so that we can get people into affordable housing without going into our land.
And by doing that, that gives people an option to get a mortgage and not a chattel loan. So that is, they actually own the house, they own the land, they're not in a trailer park. So it does whatever you guys decide. But it makes it more affordable for the homeowner and it gets them a better deal through the bank because they're now a homeowner, not a chattel loan.
Okay, Councillor Richard.
I think I agree with option 1 and 2. I know that not everything is perfect and we have to make some decisions, but I don't want to find us be in jeopardy of having to give back the money. We don't have a lot of city land. We don't have all sorts of different options available, but we do have a housing need. If we buy a piece of land that we can move the mobile homes to, we can take our time to make decisions on where to put them. We can reconvene on other options that we want to go do going forward, but let's move and get them out of there so that we have them moved. And I think in the right situation with the right board, I do sit on a housing board that's separate from anything to do with council, and I see that work well working with BC Housing. So sometimes they get bad press, but sometimes BC Housing can be very good to work with. And I've seen really successful projects happen if managed the right way. So I may not agree 100% with everything the mayor
Oh, you
is saying, but
You don't have to.
I see some successful things that can happen if done properly. So I see some good possibilities coming that way, and we really have to think about all the citizens and also how to use the funds that we can for our community, for everybody.
Councillor Charney.
Thanks for the report. I'm glad to see that these trailers are being, 21 of them are being moved. I think these trailers have been a bit of a white elephant. Is there, and so I was talking to a contractor in Vernon on the weekend. He was saying the current cost to build a house right now is $640 a square foot. About 20 years ago, it was $40 a square foot. So it's just astronomical. So, and a lot of the reasons for the cost is because of the provincial regulations and how they have to build homes, their STEP program. And then that does not include permits to build. So is there any way to work with a developer to build smaller homes that would be attainable for the average family? We're having all of these developments and they're big homes. No one can afford those except the very few. And we're talking about attainable or affordable housing. No one's talked about working with a developer and building smaller homes that don't have the granite counters and the hardwood floors and all this other. So they're just well-built, modest homes. Has that ever been talked about?
It's a possibility. There are homes on Spring Bank that are smaller. They're modular. There are lots of modular builds that are happening in the community, in the communities across BC. There's also options for 4-plexes, 6-plexes, 9-plexes, anything in between. That would be more affordable than just a single family. Because for a single family, you still have to buy the land. Like it's not going to be, when we say affordable, it's not going to be $250,000. It's going to be $400,000 or $500,000. So it's not going to have the same effect. And in order to apply for some of the grants out there that are affordable housing, and I do think that there's going to be more coming out, especially with the push on modular right now throughout the country. I don't think you're going to see those same grants coming for single family builds.
Well, I can see that developing duplexes, 4-plexes, things like that. But I'm, instead of going with like BC Housing, I'm just wondering if partnering with a developer could be an option.
Maybe, but there'd have to be some negotiations around affordability because we have lots of developers coming into the community right now with affordable builds. Sorry, affordable housing. That's not actually affordable. Olympic Villas is sitting there not full with their affordable housing. That's not affordable.
But I mean, if we work with a contractor to make it very clear exactly the outcomes, I'm not too sure. I'm just thinking of something a little different.
I think the impacts will be the same. Like we have 270 people on a wait list right now for affordable housing in our community.
Then why are they buying these trailers?
They can't afford it.
So if they can't afford a trailer, they can't afford a house. They can't afford a modular.
They can't afford to buy. They can't afford to buy.
It's the down payment that kills you.
Okay, so then work with the developer on affordable rentals. But you know, I would just like to see that option looked at.
So when we went to the modular housing conference, I mean, those become fairly realistic for people who are looking for a first home. From buying it to keys in your hand is 12 weeks. Single unit is even less. Or 6-plex is 12 weeks. They are affordable. A 6-plex is what, $1.5 million? somewhere around there. So.
Closer to 2, I think.
Yeah, so you start to break that up, the costs become quite low. So we are meeting with the president of that group tomorrow. And we have talked with him. He actually wants to come make a presentation, which we are going to encourage him to do. You need to see that end of it. Modular housing, I do sit on the mayor's group of the Housing Commission. And this is the way that Abbotsford is going. Prince George, Burnaby, they're all going this direction. So for myself, I said maybe we do 7, 8 days, but if you guys gonna go 1 and 2, don't worry about me. I'm fine. I'll go with Will. But I'm just saying, if you want to move, it's fine. We want to move. But I'm just saying there is another option is modular. And believe it or not, we're probably going to be looking at a house that is one of those Amazon buy homes that is being set up by somebody. We're going to go have a look at that. $50,000. So 3-bedroom, the whole bit. We're going to go have a look at that, see what that looks like, and have. Well, again, you try to make one thing reasonable so the other thing isn't so terrible. You know what I mean? Sort of thing. Anyways, who's next here? I mean, yes, you are, Councillor Petrosi.
So, yeah, I was leaning to option 4 about working with developers, as I think Councillor Charney was mentioning. Could you speak more to option 4? On
So
what that would look like?
Option 4 would be an application-based program, so a certain number of units for a certain number of years for a certain rent. That would have to be an agreement. I don't have the details worked out at this point.
No.
But I would not recommend doing it without a predetermined rent that we've determined in the community as affordable. Because what we've seen happen, which I already alluded to, is something that was funded in our community that they don't tell us what the rents are. We don't know what the rents are. We hear that the building's not full, and what we're hearing in the community is it's not affordable. So it would really have to be ironed out, and it would have to be very clear. There'd have to be an agreement with the city saying that for this much money, we want this many units for this many years, 20 years, for this much.
Thank you.
Councillor Richard.
Even though I didn't go to your conference, I know that at FCM 2023, they had a whole modular apartment building displayed on a walking tour, and it was really effective and quick, and it solved a lot of problems. And I'm not saying that it would work perfectly here, but it seems to be the way that solutions are being met quickly. And the building standard of modular construction is seeming to be the same as frame built custom type homes, but with more modest finishes. It seems to be cost effective, and I just think it would be worth looking into it, even if you buy certain lots and you have say fourplexes where they could be on a strata lot and people have the option to purchase. Because some of our other properties, like I think Juniper House was stratified a few years ago, mostly to help with the funding model through CMHC and BC Housing, but things like this can be built quickly, and it can be affordable, and you can still have a house that has a nice yard for people, and then maybe it's shared by 2 families or something, but it can work out really well. And that's why I would be in support of the first 2 options.
Councillor Baxter.
With option 1 and 2, like, I think that's the way to go right now. So that our community can move forward and that the trailers aren't sitting there for like 10, 15 years while people need houses. And then I can see us eventually, a few years down the road, looking at option 4, talking to developers and making the connections so that we can have option 4 in the future. But option 1 and 2 are the way to go right now so that we can get people into those homes so that they're not sitting there getting broken into and destroyed.
Thank you. Any other questions? Anything else, Holly?
No.
So we have a motion on the floor, moved and seconded. And the motion is, I'll read it again. The council directs staff to move forward with the options 1 and 2 as outlined in July 8th, 2025 report on the Director of Housing entitled Housing Fund Direction. All those in favor? All those opposed? Do we have a new motion? Not looking at you, I'm just saying. Okay, so how do we want to do that? Well, we'll have the gentleman here tomorrow. So you have to remember, we're on a time clock here, so, pardon me?
When do we lose the funding if we don't have an answer soon?
Let the director answer.
I don't have a date, but I can provide follow-up with our municipal affairs person tomorrow and letting him know that council is further deciding if you guys can give me a date that you'll have an answer by. Is that,
No, that's fine.
that,
If you
that
wanna let
works?
that go.
Okay.
But I would say before next council meeting, we should have an answer. And if we didn't like 1 and 2 and we have no other answer, then 1 and 2 is the way we've got to go. It's just that simple. And if we don't have anything else that works, I mean, you got to remember, there's a lot of gears and wheels in this situation.
And you're talking to people tomorrow with regards to modular.
President of
homes.
the Modular Home Association is here tomorrow.
So,
He wants to do a presentation to council. So we'll meet with him tomorrow, discuss some things. We've met with him once already. But he would like to do actually, he would like to take all of council to the manufacturing home building plant in Penticton and take us through a tour. It's modular. So he would like to do that. Whatever decision we make, I still think modular housing is something we should be looking at.
Okay,
So-
and just to clarify, I think that we're not talking about you're talking about 1 and 2 for the mobile homes. We're not really talking about the mobile homes right now. We're talking about what to do with the other $4 million. Right?
Correct.
Am I correct in assuming that?
Right, so part of that $4 million would go towards the mobile homes if we're buying land to put them on.
Right.
Okay,
Yeah, so.
all right.
Yes.
Councilor Baxter.
I think we really need to think about the bigger picture here. We can't stick all of our eggs in one basket. We're gonna have to start looking at getting people into homes, even if it's rent to own, but not on city land. We're gonna have to start figuring out, even if we purchase that land, put some mobile homes on it, and then put some modular homes on that same land. We need to be able to keep moving forward so that people have homes, so that people can keep their jobs, so that we can all keep moving forward.
Seal.
So your worship, I'd like council to think about what the next steps would be. So staff were planning to present to council some additional considerations in an August meeting as it relates to some of these options, particularly how we manage the mobile home inventory. Are we able to provide staff direction tonight on the mobile home aspect to allow us to prepare those options for an August meeting, separate from the remaining treasury board funds?
Councilor Richard.
I think we should make a motion to look at available pieces of land suitable for mobile home storage and do that as soon as possible.
Okay, that's kind of already in here. If you read the thing, it already says we're going to be storing them up at the unfenced area up at the airport.
Okay, but I mean, if nobody's making a motion and not wanting to move on anything, we should give them direction at least.
Well, I think we've had several discussions on where mobile homes are going to go. We decided we would put 4 in over the bridge going into Collettville. We decided that. We decided that we would actually put 1 or 2 up at the airport so people who are fighting fires and stuff have a place to stay. We decided that. Maybe that didn't get written down, but I clearly recall we talked about
did
that.
Well, we had a lot of
Did the-
discussion.
But I mean, we do know from Director Green that these have to be moved, and we know that. So I would say that the direction at this point from council would be to get them moved into the storage area where they have to be. Because either way, I mean, we can leave them where they are and pay rent and have all sorts of problems. So
Isn't that ending on December 30th?
what's that?
Well,
Some of them are, but 21 are ready to go now. Councilor Egan.
Thank you. And I think that we should put those trailers up for X price and make them available to people to buy now.
Okay,
Yeah, I know, but I don't think the community as a whole knows that.
Councilor Charney.
how many trailers have been sold?
8. All of the trailers are listed on realtor.ca. We did have another offer that was no-go, but we are expecting that one to be renegotiated this week.
Well, I think I agree with Councillor Egan. I think we have to fire sale them. whatever we get for them, we didn't pay for them. It's money in the bank that we could use again. The longer we hold on to them, they're just doing nothing for the city. So I think we have to get rid of the trailers as quickly as we can. And if we're selling them for a very reasonable price, we are helping people in the community afford a home.
So we've got them listed for anybody in the community to buy.
How much?
I believe that it's 175.
175.
175, but we also know that there is a ceiling. We know this to a certain degree. So that's already out there. I mean, maybe we haven't been vocal enough to let people know that they can be looking at these. But I mean, we've had this conversation now, what, 5 times? So
Yes, we have.
we know
We just
we've had Bailey in here who's, and I mean, so, I mean, I understand a lot of people don't watch council meetings, I get it. But these are out there. I don't know, other than the fact of, you know, taking out something up on a big billboard, I have no idea what else could be done.
Can we not put it on the radio, put it in the
Paper?
Herald, like take a big page out and say, hey.
It is in the Herald to a certain degree. They're there for sale, but again, I think what the issue is people just can't afford the land to put them on. And
Well-
that's where the issue comes in.
The other thing is where they are located right now. Sometimes the park owner has to approve the purchaser, and that's the thing that we have to understand.
Mhm.
It's not always that the people can't necessarily afford it if they don't have the down payment, but they also have to make an agreement with the property owner. And that could also be that he doesn't like the look of the driveway and you have to redo it, or whatever the case may be. You have to be approved. And the park owner also has to sign the mortgage release or their agreement to get that done as well. So it's challenging, and that's why I think moving the units to the storage location will help. Because if we put a piece of land to sell the land with the mobile home is probably gonna go quicker, because it's been a problem up to this point.
Sure. Councilor Chern?
Oh, can we firm up that we're going to put 2 at the airport, 4 in Collettville? Is that being firmed up? Or is it just being talked about? It's not being firmed up?
So I believe that we are not able to put them on the lot in Collettville. So
Oh.
that is a no-go.
Well, we did not know
So
that.
we do not have staff housing available going into
And the reason-
Collettville, which had been previously
The reasoning is
discussed.
why?
So I believe the Director of Public Works and Engineering Services provided some feedback in terms of what's underneath that lot.
Okay.
In terms of chlorine loops and other things for city infrastructure that would impact our ability to consider that option. So at this point, we don't have lots dedicated anywhere for staff housing or other housing. And so trying to understand, and given that we only have one sold, we're looking to figure out the strategy for managing that inventory. And so if council is interested in seeing some options as it relates to land, that would be helpful direction to us to understand for the next step in engagement in August, separate from the remaining Treasury Board discussion, which we understand also needs to take place. So looking to see if we can at least get direction in regards to that next step as it relates to land considerations in the city. We don't have that optionality right now.
We just were talking about that land behind AA Market. Could any trailers go there?
Well,
It is flood though, but.
No, again, you want to stay away from the floodplain as much
Okay.
as possible.
what about
I mean, we
Roy-
do have some properties. You know, we do have the property by Coco's Chicken. We have the property up at the airport. We have some properties that we could put some, well, you're not, that's gonna be a little different, but there are some properties, but we're not gonna be able to put them all somewhere. But also too, there is a discussion going on with an investment group that is a discussion about putting all 31 trailers there, but we haven't gone further than a discussion. It's a great idea. We've thrown it around, but until the developer decides what they want to do, we just sit in limbo on that one. So that discussion has happened, whether it goes or it doesn't. There's a couple of things that they're looking for. There's a couple of things that we're looking for. So that hasn't gone much further. So hopefully it will. So right now we've got the city staff looking for direction. Councilor Petrosi?
So we are asking 175,000 each. Doesn't matter what size. Right now, has there been talk about reducing or lowering the price? Asking
We've
price on
already
these?
discussed that we had a lower price if we had to get there. and that's been approved, where staff could move ahead without our permission on that.
Right.
We've already given that.
And we have not had, we've had one sale.
Yes.
This is not an easy time to be selling anything.
Yeah, I know.
And
This just seems the longer we hang on to them, it's just gonna cost. Or
And, you know, there's other groups that I've talked to, First Nations groups, other groups that, are you interested? Are you interested? Everybody's interested, but it just doesn't seem like any wheels start turning, you know what I mean, sort of thing. So I guess what staff is looking for is some sort of, on what we want to do with these trailers. I mean, I guess for myself, acting CAO, is I did not know that we could not use the property over the bridge. So if we have land that we have, can we have an option on what can go in there and if they're allowed to go in there? Because I know we have up by the co-op, we have a plot of land up there. We have the airport, we have by Coco's. And I mean, we're not going to wait forever for that land to do something. Maybe we put something in there. So we do have some properties. We just need to know what can go on there because I had no idea that couldn't go on that property on Colville until tonight. So
So is council interested only in storage options, or are they interested in options for near-term storage, but the next stage of?
So for me, if we're gonna set up in these areas, we're not gonna be able to put them all in there. And I think Council or Director Green will agree with me. The only other place that we could put them is up at the airport where we stack them in there. Then what happens? How long do they sit? How, you know, what ends up happening?
So I do have a plan to come back on August 26th and closed and discuss some options of
Okay.
where they could go.
Okay. So I guess what for us is there's direction needed, but we need to know what a timeline is before we have to do something with this money.
Correct.
So we don't want to put you in a corner. So whatever timeline you're comfortable with is the one that we're willing to work in. So if you're comfortable for us, you know, I think we've given you some direction. We would like to know what we can put on the land that we have. And for myself, I mean, if we're going to set a couple of them up, you don't want to sell the land they're under, but then you become a rentalsman, right? So do you really want to do that? And this is double-edged sword. We want to get people into these things, but do we want to become rental people? Maybe yes, maybe no. It's hard to say. But then we foolishly don't want to lose the whole works either. So this has been going on for a year now. We've been talking about this because this is a very touchy subject, and it's, you know, we got them. It was great when the trailers were announced, but now we have to deal with what's there.
So selling them with land makes it a little bit easier for people to get mortgages than where we currently are, where they now have to go through the park owner to get approval to live there, plus pay a pad rent, plus qualify for a chattel loan.
And the only reason that I mention the fact is because we've worked very hard to get these properties for the city for future development.
Yeah.
And you now don't want to dispose of that land and have nothing to work with.
Yes.
So, I mean, if it comes down to it, I guess we go into the storage business for myself and we store them where they need to be stored. We had talked about keeping 1 or 2 or 3, especially up at the airport for people who are fighting fires, ESS situations. If somebody is out of their home and they need somewhere to live, we have the option to keep 2 or 3. That's pretty simple. What do we do with the other 24?
So that's where the report on the 26th will come in,
Okay.
where we would be looking at using some of that money from municipal affairs to purchase a piece of land, to move them, sell them with
Okay.
land.
So how about we go on Councillor Baxter?
Can we direct staff to find the land where they'd like to purchase around Merritt and how many units we can put on each of the land parcels? So, and then a guesstimate of when we split that land, how much it would cost people.
Councillor Hitcher?
That's basically what I was trying to say earlier, a motion so that we could even have a piece of land that we invest and buy and have it subdivided for 12 units, which is typically smaller than what you would have for a normal lot. And then when you sell the unit, you're selling it as a unit with a piece of lot, and then it has a legal description on it. And then that's where we recover some of the money. And then we have a little bit of time. We're not paying pad rent. And that's when we recover some of the money, and then people can have their financing.
So,
Yeah.
so let's leave that with you on a timeline that you're comfortable with. If you feel that we're getting into a situation where we're going to run out of time, then we need to know that. So
So my intention is to have that to you on August 26th.
if you're comfortable with that, so are
Yeah.
we. Okay, excellent. Oh, you're done?
I was just saying my suggestion was similar to Councillor Baxter's.
Okay, that's
Where
what we're-
land and then you sell them on a piece of land, so people aren't getting, it's easier to get a mortgage with the land.
Mhm.
So can I ask is it okay if I ask a question?
Sure.
So will you also have an answer then on August 26th for option A?
I believe, an,
Or an
yeah,
option?
I believe these, I would suggest council hold on to these 4 options. I'd be prepared to make a decision on them on that date. Yes.
Okay, thank
Yes,
you.
most definitely so. Okay, that's where we'll leave it. Thank you. 8.2, new street naming. Gateway 286. Recommendation that council direct administration to name the new road that will be created by the subdivision of Block F, Section 11, Township 91, Kamloops Division, Yale District, PID 031-339-859 as Spayham Way. Councilor Petrosi, Councilor Baxter, any questions on this? All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. 8.3, 2025 Q2 report from Bailey House Information Center. Recommendation that the July 17th, 2025 report of the Director of Community Services entitled 2025 Q2 report from the Bailey House Information Center be received for information. Councillor Egan, Councillor Etchart. Have we had a look at that? Do we have a representative here? No, nobody from the Bailey House. I was quite interested in it. There was some interesting stuff in here. You know, it looks like more people are actually stopping to, rather than just use the bathroom, they're actually using the picnic area, which is quite nice. So bathroom has always been the #1 facility thing. So I think they're doing a great job. So appreciate the report. Any Councillor Charney?
It was interesting. I understand that a lot of people don't come into town. They stay up top. But this falls into what TNV is saying. People aren't staying in town. If you look at one night, it's only 3%. 91% are in and out. And so that's how somehow we have to change, where we're bringing people and getting them to stay 1, 2, 3 nights. So this kind of solidifies exactly what TNV is saying.
Well, it's either you find a way to keep them here or you capitalize on the fact that you house people for one night and they're on their way. Because, you know, most of the stuff that we do have here for people to do are not in the city limits. They fish, they go boating, they do mountain biking. We are seeing a little bit of an uptick in the electric bike people coming in and hitting the restaurants and stuff like that. So we're seeing that. So no, you're right. It would be interesting to see, you know, what decisions TNV and the city can come up with to keep people here. Yeah, I agree. Anybody else, any comments on that? We vote on that? All those in favor? Opposed, carried. 8.4, Transit Future Service Plan and Presentation. I recommend that council receive the presentation and transfer future services plan for information. I just got to get somebody. Councillor Egan, I need a secondary. Councillor Etchart. Yes.
So your worship, briefly, before we turn things over to BC Transit staff, I just wanted to make a few remarks if I could.
Sure.
So staff do feel that it's important that this is brought to council. It reflects the output of community engagement efforts, etc. You'll notice that we were careful in the resolution tonight that you receive it for information and discussion purposes. So of course, this is coming to you in the backdrop of costs that have tripled in 10 years, material increases in transit levies, and our UBCM resolution just to maintain the current level of service with an enhanced transit supplement on the small community grant. So the resolution was modified by staff that it's received for information and discussion purposes. I encourage council to ask questions about future financial commitments in relation to level of service changes, any other questions that you may have. And then the option to make a motion to endorse the plan is up to council. So I just wanted to provide that before we turn things over. Thank you.
Thank you. And it looks like we have Danica and camera's so dark, I can't make it out, sorry. Is it Jennifer?
Yes, it
So
is.
we
It's
will
Jennifer.
Put it over to whoever would like to take it from transit. Do we have a presentation or just here for questions?
I have a presentation. Bear with me as I figure out the screen sharing.
Sorry,
There you
Not able to hear you. Hold on. Or we can hear you, but very faintly. We get you to do a check mic thing if you can.
Yeah. Check, check. Hear me now?
No. I mean, barely.
Barely? Okay, let's see.
There we go. Found the button.
Okay, great. Fantastic. And can you all see my screen? Am I sharing?
We can see you there.
You
Oh,
can see me. I can try here again to share. I think it didn't work the first time. Screen 1 is what I want to share. All right, can you see that?
no.
Maybe it's just taking a moment. Danica, you're nodding. Can you see my
There we
screen?
go.
Okay,
We had to move you out of the way.
fair
There.
enough. Get me out of there. Okay. Awesome. Well, hi, everyone. Thank you very much for having myself and Danica here tonight. I'm Jen Getz, and I'm a transit planner with BC Transit. I will first acknowledge with respect that BC Transit delivers our mission on the ancestral territories of Indigenous peoples across BC, and their historical relationships with the land continue to this day. I first wanted to provide a bit of a timeline to remind you what we've done and where we are at. So we started out with the terms of reference for the Transit Future Service Plan, and we put together a background technical report of the system where we reviewed ridership statistics and that sort of those pieces. We did some public engagement. We presented those results to council, and we integrated the feedback from our public engagement and our the information from our background report into our final draft plan. And I'm here tonight to present this plan to you. And as Kevin mentioned, the resolution might have changed a little bit from what you see here, or my recommendation. So just keep that in mind as you view the presentation. But my purpose here tonight will be to present the Transit Future Service Plan. I will likely refer to it as the TFSP or the plan throughout the presentation, and we are seeking endorsement of the final Transit Future Plan. So I'll discuss sort of the role of the Transit Future Service Plan, what it is, briefly review what the transit system looks like today, and then we'll get into service priorities and considerations. There will be time for questions at the end, of course. So firstly, the role of the Transit Future Plan is to build on the existing planning and add service and infrastructure priorities for the community, to review what has changed for the community, to inform both planning and operational transit activities. It's to drive a range of objectives and actions that will deliver a fit for purpose style network across the community, guide decision making to procure and deliver the desired network. And it's also an opportunity for us to engage with the community. So I will also just note that this plan is just a snapshot in time based off of feedback and current system statistics and the current network. It's a guidance document only, so there's no commitment to funding. It's a collaborative project for you, so the city should feel represented in it. The future plan can be considered a working document, so we can make changes at any point if that's a desire. None of the service options presented in the plan are set in stone, and the city would need to approve implementation with provincial funding approval where applicable prior to implementation of any of the service options. And then I'll also note that the timelines in the plan, so the short, medium, and long-term options are also considerations. They're just simply considerations. They don't need to be followed in that order, and they can be implemented by local government as resources become available. So the city can control when and how and even if things get implemented. And anything that has a resource requirement would have to come back to council for approval. As well, prior to implementation, I'll note that resources and route safety would need to be reassessed. So service hours and the routing itself, sort of from a scheduling and operations perspective. So your transit system today is what you see up here on your screen. We have 4 fixed routes. So approximately 63% of the ridership is attributed to Route 1, approximately 4% to Route 2, 21% to Route 3, and 12% to Route 4. The plan itself also gives an overview of the vision for the plan and corporate priorities like our electronic fare strategy and on-demand service. And there's also a more in-depth look at Merit's existing transit performance and recent changes to the system. The plan also covers some key findings from public engagement, which I've presented on previously. But for the purposes of this presentation, we will jump into discussing what Merit's future network could look like. So this is just a map kind of showing where the areas are, where changes would be kind of proposed. And so we're looking at potentially some more service for the lower Nicola service. That's the Route 4 there. So late night service and Sunday service as well. New service in the Bench neighborhood, a service extension of existing routing to serve Armstrong Street, and then frequency improvements as well on all the routes. So starting with what we've identified as short to medium term opportunities, lower Nicola, late night service, and Sunday service. So this does break down sort of what the hours would likely be, depending on the day of the week. But in total, it would be roughly about 900 annual service hours, and there would be 1 additional bus needed for this service. And that's a kind of just a draft schedule that you see up there. So the black is what you have currently, and then the red would be proposed expanded service. So Sunday service and late night service for the Route 4. And then sort of more medium term, one option is to look at service to the Bench neighborhood. So this would be sort of a couple of options that I'll present to you here today. This one is just weekdays, so a new bi-directional route between downtown and Nicola Valley Institute of Technology. For 2 round trips in the AM and 2 round trips in the PM, we'd be looking at about 450 annual service hours and 1 additional vehicle. And for a little bit more service to extend to weekends as well, both Saturday and Sunday, you'd be looking at about 625 annual service hours. And again, 1 light duty vehicle. And then in the long term, some other options would be sort of Armstrong Street service and some frequency improvements. Armstrong Street could look like what you see on this map. Could be a turning around on Phillips Street or somewhere around there, and it would be about a 10-minute extension to the existing Route 3, which would expand the frequency of service by about 10 minutes as well, but it would serve that area. And then second option would be similar, but if the road network were to connect eventually from Ban Street through to Clapperton Avenue, the bus could make that connection. The same number of service hours would be here, so 550 for both options, and no additional vehicles would be required. Some other service priorities. We like to highlight system maintenance as for all of our systems. It's a recommendation to make sure that buses are running on time as kind of ridership increases and traffic also increases. So just to keep things running on time, we'd be recommending about a 0.75% increase for Merit. So based on on-time performance, which is how reliable the bus aligns with our schedule, as well as passenger comfort, so how crowded the bus is. Some other service considerations would be to consider reallocating 300 annual service hours for stat holidays, 2 days where there is higher demand. And then as well, of course, wherever possible for the city to consider interconnected roadways, pedestrian pathways, and sidewalks to enhance mobility and accessibility. That's always good for transit. and for everyone. And then also I will note that engagement activities and discussions with Cooks Ferry Band reveal demand for transit expansion to serve ANTCO 21. So one consideration could be service up to 7 days a week in the AM and PM, but further exploration is necessary prior to implementing. And while I don't have it included in this presentation in an effort to reduce text, the plan itself does include an overview of the highest performing bus stops and top 10 stops that would benefit from amenity improvements. So for the purposes here, I'll just say to improve, improving bus stop accessibility and safety and to provide additional amenities. So garbage cans, benches, shelters are always a good priority. So the recommendation today is that council endorse the transit future service plan, or I guess now it's to accept it as information. And just a reminder again that the TFSP is a guidance document only. There is no commitment to funding at this time, and the plan can be considered a working document. None of the options presented are set in stone, and the city would need to approve implementation with provincial funding approval where applicable prior to implementation. Again, the timelines noted don't need to be followed in that specific order. They can be implemented by local government as resources become available, and anything that has a resource requirement, so additional service hours or vehicles, would have to come back to council for approval prior to implementation. So next steps here would be for the council to endorse the plan, hopefully, and then the future plan can be posted to the BC Transit website as a working document to guide transit priorities and expansion. So with that, I will say thank you very much and open it up to questions.
Thank you. So CFO, just a question, and this might be for you as well, Jennifer. We talk about extended service out to Lower Nicollet and extended night service. Does TNRD help us with that cost?
So your worship, this is an element that we have flagged to TNRD that we would like to discuss. So there is currently a grant that we receive. Historically, that's been about $10,000 a year. I believe we just received 12,000. I have been in conversation with BC Transit staff to understand the true cost of running that service in preparation for engaging in negotiations. So we are looking at some sort of project where we engage across our portfolio of funding, so both the rec and the transit areas.
And then the ANTCO, we would be looking at Cooks Ferry to help out with the extension to their area as well.
So council can certainly issue staff direction on the expectation of how funding would secure that service expansion, certainly.
Councillor Cherney.
You burst my bubble.
Oh, sorry.
Those are two of my questions. I wanted to know if Route 4, which is in Lower Nicholas, 12% of the service cost, and is increasing the service, is it cost effective? So, you know, that was one of my question. And I like the idea of the bench in Armstrong having expanded service. I think that's will be a great asset for people. And again, I had the Cooks Ferry, whether they were going to contribute appropriate percentage for the increase in services.
Councillor Egan.
Yeah, my question is, what is exactly 1 hour of use cost? That's what I was gonna ask.
Get that calculator out.
Well, I was thinking, like we had 625, 640 or something like that. And I got, if I based it at $60 an hour, you know, that would be their wages and whatever, you know, because they're QB. I had it at $4,000, 900 hours at $60.
I'd be happy to provide a little additional information if you want.
Yes,
That'd be
please.
great, thanks.
So respectfully through the chair, based on your last year's performance summaries, operating costs for the Merit Transit system average out to $92 per service hour. This is cost shared with the province at about 50-50. because you do offer some on-request service, it is a sort of blended cost share, but it works out to about half. This does matter if the new service you're introducing requires additional vehicles. That obviously changes the cost. But if you want to generally think about what it might be, you can sort of do some napkin math at about $50 an hour for the local government share of additional service.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Etcher.
I think some of the comments have already been addressed, but I think expanding into areas like Armstrong and the Bench would be helpful because that's where a lot of residential areas are. So we probably don't have that ridership data. But with increasing costs, leases, insurances, fuel, maintenance and whatnot, are you expecting much of a forecast? If we had 92 last year, do you think that we're having a reasonable increase for 2025 by the time you do your year end? If costs end up being, say, 102 per hour based on current costs, have you seen a large increase in operations?
Did I take that one again?
You bet, please.
So we do see costs increase a little bit every year. I think Merit is lucky that you do have a not-for-profit organization who is operating transit, and that has been able to keep costs low and certainly lower than other systems. Our 3-year budgets for the city will be coming out in the next couple months, but typically you can forecast costs to go up a few percent at least every year. But because if you're a not-for-profit organization running it currently, we aren't anticipating any significant cost increases. There is still a lot of cost volatility, particularly with the price of fuel. That's one of our biggest sort of variables in your budget.
Or just looking that if we had, say, adding Lower Nicola was adding, say, 600 annual hours at $92 an hour, 55,000, that's only 20% recovery if we get a grant of 10 or 12,000, which even if you have some user fees, it's in theory, it'd be great to have for the residents. It's just, but it's a big cost for us to consider. So we're just trying to do the math and just see what's affordable. But anyway, that's my question. It would be great to expand to all these areas. It's just the question, can we afford it? Thanks for the info.
I work at a high school, so a lot of the high school kids use your bus services in the morning and after school. And they would love to have service expended on Bench and in Armstrong Street, but the only one that would work for your Armstrong Street is if you connect to the Clapperton. So the city of Merritt would have to connect that road, because if you try to turn around on Phillip Street, you're gonna get bottlenecked. Like the people that live on Phillip Street get bottlenecked, and they have to squeeze through the parked cars every morning, and that would slow your bus service down, and you would add way too many minutes. So that's what I see.
Thank you. Anyone else? Councillor Charney.
I agree with everything except the Lower Nicola, because I just don't see at 12% of the ridership that we're going to be increasing the service by the hours that's suggested. And with what Councillor Baxter said, Armstrong and Bench, that's where the ridership is. So if we increase there, but I don't see increasing to Lower Nicola with such a low ridership.
Well, I would say that if we look at an increase to Lower Nicola, then we work with TNRD to cover that cost. That's we have fire agreements with them for the same thing. So I would say that route would be based on the fact that TNRD would probably be carrying most of the load of that. So I mean, I'm prepared to make that decision and or consider that. So any other? Oh, here we go. Oh, hold on a second, Councillor Petrosi.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask about route number 2, approximately 4% assistant ridership. How many is actually 4%? Just seems low. And And is it because the bridge was out for so long and now that the bridge is intact and that route is again in operation? Maybe it hasn't caught on. I don't know, but it just seems low, 4%. And how many that actually works out to be, if you know.
So respectfully, through the chair, annual ridership for the system last year was about 62,000.
And I think I think you do hit something there about the bridge being down for as long as it was. The bridge comes back up because then we just reinstalled that route about what, 8 months ago, 6 months ago.
Yeah.
So we haven't had a full year's data on that. So I think we would probably need to wait a year to see what that looks like, or a full year since the bridge has come in. Not that I'm taking the words out of your mouth here, but Councillor Egan.
Yeah, I would just like to make the motion that we, as presented, that receive the presentation plan for information and you use it as a working guide for the future.
So
And then-
we already have that motion
Yeah.
on the table.
Okay, well,
So if you want to receive it for information, or do you want to actually implement the plan? So how long would it take TNRD to, I'm assuming that's going to take a while. And Cooks Ferry, so yeah, I would imagine
So
that would
BC
take.
Transit staff can provide some guidance here, but essentially they're looking for an endorsement of the plan, which would be a motion of council. Council can then direct staff on provisions and conditions for any service level changes.
Mhm.
So nothing changes without that direction in terms of how things would be funded, et cetera. So you are able to, based on what you've heard tonight, make a motion if you would like to endorse the plan. And then on any service level changes, direct staff on the provisions of those service level changes. So I'll let BC Transit confirm that what I've said is correct.
Is this correct, Jen?
Respectfully through the chair, yes, that's my understanding as well.
Okay. So, well, that's basically what you would be doing. So you're approving you're approving the plan, but we also then state what we would like to see. So I think that's the route we should go, because then BC Transit can work on the future plan. Then we can look at TNRD, Cooks Ferry. Then we can look at, I would say this time next year, once more information comes in for Route 2, we decide what that looks like. If Route 4 is getting no help, then that's probably something we eject as well. We have to look after the citizens in the community before we look after anybody else. So the motion that we have is that council receive the presentation and transit future service plan for information and implementation. How would we do this?
So your worship, you can vote on the resolution as stated, and then council's free to make a motion to direct staff or to endorse the transit plan, future transit.
We do have this moved and seconded. So the recommendation that council receive the presentation and transit future service plan for information. Opposed? Anybody want to make another motion? Sure, I'll make one. Council Baxter, you go ahead.
I'd like to make a motion that we accept option number 2 as the bench all week long, and option number 2, Armstrong Street to Clapton Avenue connection.
And the future plan?
And the future.
And the future plan. Is that too technical, or can we just say the future plan with council?
So it might be helpful for BC Transit staff to have an endorsement of the plan, given
Yes.
that there's no commitment from council.
Right.
Council
So let's-
can then make a further motion or further direction on.
Let's
service
let
level
amend that
changes.
to the future plan. And then, so I guess we'd say that council, help me out here, CO. You're good at this stuff. That's why you get paid big dollars.
Thank you, Worship. So the next motion that you're looking to do is that council endorse the future plan as presented.
And I don't know if we want to go into the specifics too much about Lake Road. Yep. Yep. Yeah, that would be, yeah, so let's do that. So we would implement the plan with staff bringing back information on those 2 items. Is that cool?
Certainly, it might be helpful just to have the motion for the endorsement and then a second motion
Okay.
with any direction, just so that they're clear that this is endorsed and they can publish it
Sure,
on the
let's do it that
website.
way. It'll be cleaner that way. So we're gonna have endorsement to the plan. Need a mover. Counselor Egan, Counselor Baxter, all those in favor? Opposed, carried. Another motion that we have staff investigate the participation of TNRD in Cooks Ferry and what that would look like. Yeah, financial participation. And probably an update on Route 2 after a full year of the bridge being in operation, because I think we need to know that. I need a mover and seconder. Counselor Egan or Etchart, Counselor Charney, all those in favor? Opposed, carried. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Danica. Thank you, Jen. Appreciate it. Probably
Thank you.
see
Have a good night.
probably
Thank
see
you
at
very much.
UBCM, so thank you very much. Thank you, everyone. Appreciate that. 8.3 flood mitigation quarterly update. Recommendation that July 17th, 2025 report from the flood mitigation communications specialist entitled Flood Mitigation Quarterly Update 2025 Q2 be received for information. Councilor Petrosi, Councilor Etchart, any questions on this? I'm really impressed with the ability of the ROC. 99.5% of reimbursement requests were approved. A little over 152 million, close to 153 million dollars garnered for these processes. It's been a lot of work. Council has been involved, staff has been involved, ROC has been involved. It's been good to see this, especially when you look at the back plan and you see all of that and where we've gotten to. And then just to let you know that we are pushing for the last 30% of the federal government come September. And hopefully by Christmas, we'll have the whole thing done and funded. So very impressive report and a lot of good hard work by a lot of good people. So very impressed. I mean, there's other communities that haven't even got a dime as of yet. So I'm very impressed with this. So great work on our staff and our ROC and everybody involved with that. So did I get a mover and seconder? Okay, all those, any questions? All those in favor? Opposed, carried. Notices of motion. Nope. Reports from council. Councilor Baxter.
I attended the Stewie meeting on Monday, July the 14th. And since I got back from camping.
Councilor Charney.
I don't know what date it was. Everything blurs together now, but I went to that BC is Burning. Very informative, a very good presentation. Councillor Egan and Etchart were there. And I would really like to see if we could have that presented to council and get more of the public to see this video. One thing I found, I always knew that after a fire, the water ran off. I thought it was because there was no vegetation, but it's actually because the fire changes the composition of the soil. And so therefore the water doesn't sink through. And it was really, really impressed where they drop water on it, just beads. So that was very informative for me. It was an excellent presentation and I would like to see it presented to council. And that's all I've done.
Retro.
Well, it's summer, so it's a little bit quiet out there, but along with Councillor Egan and Charney, I was at the BC Burning session, and I see that we also had a wildfire email come out today that there's some project going on for cleaning up the forest, which is good. I think 1.7 million, not anywhere near enough. But it would be nice that we could start really advocating for this in our area, talk about it and push it at UBCM with our colleagues, just so that they can really think about this. Because in other communities where they don't have as much concern for fire, the island that has a lot more rain, it's not maybe top of mind as much as it is for us in the interior. I know at work it's a big concern. I had one of the companies tell me the other day that starting in August, they're putting a surcharge on for interior regions because of the increased risk of wildfire. And that's just going to be really popular with residents. So I think that we have to start taking a push for forest harvesting and management. They call it not logging, harvesting. That's the new word. That's very 2025. Yeah, then of course on the weekend was a fire call out for a vehicle event, unfortunately. So that was interesting. So much for sleeping in. And yeah, it's just been a quiet couple weeks.
Counselor Egan.
Yeah, I thank you. I also went to the BC is Burning, and I had a conversation with the organizer afterwards and suggested maybe that they present at UBCM this fall. So they were going to look into that. So hopefully we can get all the communities, because this video just came out. The fellow that made it, he just got it all together about 5 weeks ago, and he's only shown it in a couple of places. Merritt, I think, was about the third spot. And yeah, he really was talking about how municipalities and all levels of government can really help with getting the education out there. And I think most of the loggers would be very, very happy to hear that maybe it's an idea to restructure what loggers actually can do. And when the logging industry is going out, now that maybe they should be getting in touch with the wildfire people from that announcement yesterday or this morning when I read it, to put their equipment to work, so that there's still jobs in the forest industry.
Okay, myself, on the 7th, I attended the Nicola Lake Algae Bloom meeting, that was hosted by the 2 TNRD directors, and MLA Luck was there regarding the algae bloom that has kind of taken over the lake and some of the plans and what can happen. They have decided to form a group. I think it's called the Nicola Lake Warriors or something. And, they will be being represented to get that fixed. On the 9th, I did the town walk with Mr. Frank Caputo, walked him around, showed him some businesses. He tried out some of our local flavor. So Councillor Egan was stopping at her place, so he was getting to know the ground, and nice to see him come to town and meet some people. That was nice. Then I had a working lunch with the interim CAO, Sylvia Weir, who's interim for Susan Brown. Had a very good conversation with her on the future of IHA, where they want to go, and some of the issues that we've had, some of the issues that we see, and what we would like to see become a little bit better. And one of them would be the CAO actually taking more than 7 minutes in 3 years to talk to you. So hopefully that will work. We're not sure who the CAO will be, but I think Sylvia is a fine candidate, and I think she's probably in the running, and I think she would do us well. I had a phone call with Dan Elbis on our e-petition, which unfortunately was destroyed because of the prorogue of government. Does not suggest that we redo it at this point, and talked about our plans for the rest of the coverage of the 30% of the dike come fall, which he will get behind us on that. Then at 1:30, I met with the Nicola Watershed Governance. We had the Nicola Watershed Governance ceremony out at Monk Park, where the First Nations held a ceremony to address the algae bloom, and met with the minister out there. And then at 3:30, we met with the minister, Minister Neal, Water, Lands and Resource Stewardship, here on a one-on-one. We talked mostly about our water conservation steps that we're taking, where we're going, and then some of the concerns that we have, such as the Penguard well, what we're looking for there to get that in operation. And I think overall she was quite impressed with the steps that we've been taking. Apparently I've got a water meter going into my house here very soon. I'm going to be the first one to get a water meter. That's all right. So that'll be happening soon. July 11th, of course, we had Base Coast. My wife and I volunteered up at Base Coast. It was a great time, great festival, met a lot of very interesting people. I think there was very little issues up there. The ladies do run a very good festival, and I think a lot of fun was had by all. The weather was perfect, and I couldn't imagine being up on there Monday with that downpour getting out of there, but that must have been some fun, because that turns into slime up there. And then on the 17th, I had TNRD, and then I had 7 days off on holidays. So thank you very much. I appreciate that. Councillor Egan.
Sorry, just forgot a couple of things. I did go to the town tour for the Base Coast, and it was really interesting. Not just visually, but even more visually on how they've changed. The Campground A is now called the Forest, and they have 2 beautiful stages in there. A whole line of food and shopping there, or not so much food, but shopping and that. And then they had all in the center were all these various creative games and interactive objects that obviously you're interacting with. Yeah, it was really, really interesting. I really enjoyed it. If anybody wants to go, you should go on the town tour. 5 o'clock on the Thursday night. It's a really good time. And the other thing I have an ask. Councillor Charney and I were talking about after UBCM, right after the UBCM while we're on the island, to go and visit a food hub or 2 where was what city we're talking in Nanaimo? But I think there's a couple of other ones as well. But it would mean, wanted to ask anybody else if they wanted to go while we're down there to go and have a look at one of them operating. And, pardon? Yes, or we could go to the food hub in Salmon Arm. Yeah, at another time. But anyways, I'm just throwing that out there to all of you to see if you might be interested in doing that, because we don't have another meeting until August. So I'd like to ask if we could be funded for that, depending on whether or not we can actually arrange a meeting with them on that following Monday.
Send me an email. And just outline what you're looking for, and then we can get it to staff and see how that will all work out. Okay, thank you. Sure. Councilor Baxter.
I did have some citizens reach out to me and said, whatever happened to the municipal gas buddy thing, you would tell us.
Oh,
And they're wondering if you could
Oh,
start that back
I
up
will
so
start.
that they could be on record.
next week.
where it is.
I'll have it next week. I didn't think anybody listened to it. So next week I'll do it. I'll do it next week. Trust me, it'll be here. Thank you. Any other reports? Gas buddy to return. Stay tuned. CAO report. These are CAO report. Acting CAO.
So your worship, in addition to the included material, we did want to highlight that on July 23rd, there is some engagement with the community for the OCP updates. So that'll be taking place from 4 to 7 in the Civic Center. So encouraging the public to come and engage on our official community plan.
Yep. That is copy of council. That is on the 23rd. So tomorrow is what? Sorry. I didn't see the email yet.
July 23rd, OCP updates, 4 to 7 in the Civic Center.
Okay, that's the first I've heard of it. That's the next day.
Sorry? Is the picture wrong? No.
Tuesday, the 24th. On the 23rd, there is an engagement opportunity for members of the public. So if any members of council would like to attend or bring friends and family members to come and attend the event, that would be lovely.
So I
that'll be at
guess-
the Civic Center on Wednesday, tomorrow night.
Why wouldn't we be doing them both at the same time on Thursday? I'm curious.
They're on two separate nights. Tomorrow's Wednesday.
Yeah, no, but why have two separate meetings? Why not do it at the same time? I'm just curious. I'm just wondering. Any reason? Okay. I'm glad I was at this meeting tonight because I had no idea we got another one tomorrow night. So anyway. Yeah, no problem. Thank you. Good to know. Thank you. Is that all you have? Okay, good. I read this thing and, looking at the fire report, fire activity, it's kind of mind boggling what we ask our fire department to do. And I'm very impressed with what they're able to do and how they're able to put these things out. You look at the false alarms and everything else and, their training and everything. So I'm very appreciative of the fire department we have. And I've always said that we could put them up against anybody in the province and I think they would be just fine. So great job that they're doing. And I know we've had a little bit of an issue with fires in the last little bit and appreciate them putting them out and keeping us safe and them staying safe as well. So appreciate that. Any questions on that, on the fire report? No. Council resolutions. It's always good to go through those to see what we've done. So I appreciate any information on the council resolutions. Okay, thank you. Information item, we have the grave size variance request, a recommendation that council grant the requested size variance for Brian Robertson's headstone at Pine Ridge Cemetery. Councillor Egan, Councillor Baxter, any questions on that? All those in favor? Opposed, carried. Seeing nothing else, we will terminate the meeting. Thank you.